as far as a character arc, I was thinking about this. Who can you say in the MCU has had a better arc than Loki now?
Nobody really.
Would you Tony? Would you say Iron Man?
Iron Man. I mean,
Start
that's
to
that's a,
finish.
that's a good development story.
Yeah.
I think it ended decent. But this was different.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Good morning. Good morning.
How we doing, man?
Good. Winter is here.
It is,
Winter
bro.
is here.
A little brisk morning for us out there today.
Right. That's all right.
It's all right because we're inside. The show's going to be hot, though, so that's okay.
That's the way it works.
And here we are. This is Only Comics. If this is your first time joining us, hit the subscribe button right now. But what do we do on Only Comics, Adrian? We discuss comics and only comics.
And sometimes, a little something else.
Sometimes
once in a while.
some other things. Sometimes. But we I guess we're like the dynamic duo here.
Okay.
We go to war each week. We take a trip on the multiverse of the comic book universe, and we bounce around. We fight.
Yep.
We fight off opinions. We fight off some of our fans. We
Right.
Fight off director, all kinds of stuff. But I'll tell you one thing: if it's your first time here, it will be a hell of a ride. We got a lot to go through today, so we're gonna hop right into it, Adrian.
Let's get it.
We had Loki 2 ended this week, so we got that to talk about. The Marvels came out, so that dropped this weekend. There was, I think, counting me and you, I think there was 14 people that went to go see it,
right?
In
Probably.
the world. So, any of y'all that are with us here, then we'll talk about it. If not, then I mean, I guess Marvel's got they got a lot of work to do at the box office.
Right.
They got a lot going the wrong way there. And then we have some news that we're going to get into. We also have our hidden gem segment, Adrian, which we've debuted actually, a while back. This is episode 30.
Wow.
We've been doing this for 30 weeks.
Wow. That's it doesn't seem like a lot, and it's probably not a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
But for us, just starting out, that's a lot, but it doesn't feel that way.
No, it doesn't.
It's organic.
Yep.
It flows. There's a lot to talk about, so it definitely doesn't feel like that.
No, not at all. So we're gonna start with our segment like we always do, News Flash, buddy. We're going to break down some of the comic book news. So one thing that I didn't send this to Adrian, but the actor strike also ended recently.
Nice.
So we had the writer's strike end a couple months back.
Mm-hmm.
Actor strike's now over too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, do a deep dive into that, but from what I read, the actors are happy with what they're getting. All in all, a lot of it was about royalties, money, and then protection from being replaced by AI. So I guess all parties are happy. What that means for us is Hollywood's now going to resume. A lot of these movies that we like to review here and talk about, they're going to get back on track. There's going to be some delay, so we're going to get into that now. For example, we'll start with this one, Batman, the Brave and the Bold, Adrian. This is my boy, Andy Muschietti. He's directing this. We remember Andy Muschietti from a while back, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He directed the critically, would you say critically panned movie called The Flash.
Wow.
So he directed that bad boy, and he is directing Batman, the Brave and the Bold. This is a movie that is going to kind of be part of the new DCU, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting rid of Ben Affleck's Batman. We don't know who's playing Batman yet. Mm-hmm. What we do know about this movie, though, is there's going to be a Bat family that already exists.
Okay.
Damian Wayne is already going to be in this. We've never seen Damian Wayne in live action.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, with all the Batman movies we've had, there was only, I think, 2 where there was an actual Robin, and that was the old Joel Schumacher ones, the 97 with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze and that whole mess.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. But considering how they portrayed Robin, is probably best.
Yeah. Now, what's funny, you're a big fan of Titans.
Yep.
And they did a great job of portraying, you know, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood in that. And even Barbara Gordon, I mean, she was more of like the Oracle character in there. She was already paralyzed, but they did a great job portraying them there. So I don't know about you, but that's one, you know, aspect of this movie that I am excited to see is the Bat family in live action, because we talk about this a lot. I don't need to see another young Batman, you know, and starting over. I don't need another year one.
Right. The other thing is that I think Damian, his character is so strong and so specific. He's like borderline psychotic, murderous, definitely, considering his mother and his grandfather. But I just hope they pick, again, you know, right actor portrayal for the, because he's kind of like a sleeper character, but he's just a strong character. Yeah. And I think, you know, since his introduction, you know, fans have grown to love him.
Absolutely.
And so I just hope they get that right whenever they pick whoever they're going to pick for his portrayal.
And, you know, we talk about DC's animated movies a lot on this show. There's a couple with Batman and Damian where one of them's Son of Batman, where he's first introduced. But then there's Batman vs. Robin, which adapts the Court of Owls story, which is a great movie. I think that's probably one of the best Batman animated movies. And I bring that up because it's like the stories are right there. We talk about this a lot. There's a lot of stories from the comic for y'all to pull from. You don't need to recreate it, you know, page by page, but use that to influence what you're going to do instead of creating new stuff. Like, we have what works. And I'll get into it a little bit in the hidden gem, but also there's a wide variety of characters. It's not just the depth of the content, there's the width of the character base as well. So we got a lot of stuff to work with, and they just not pulling from those things. But then they're wondering why they suffer a little bit. Exactly. You know? But the news about this movie, Adrian, is that it's in early stages right now. But Andy Muschietti is putting his focus into the It prequel series from Max called Welcome to Derry. I guess the It movies. Now there's going to be a series because, you know, 2 of those stupid movies wasn't enough. Now they're going to do a whole series about it.
Wow.
So basically what they're saying is the Batman movie is going to be at a standstill until production wraps up on that script. So it's kind of on hold for the time being.
And this is why, what's his face that wrote It?
Stephen King.
Stephen King. This is why he has an opinion in comics. Because when he has an opinion, that keeps him, you know, his pulse going, right? So now Andy Muschietti is like, Stephen King, let's do another It. That's what it's all about. He's marketing himself so that he can continue to get, you know, royalties from his stupid movies.
Yep. But I will say this. I think this movie being delayed is a good thing. And why is because we talked about this before where you have The Batman with Robert Pattinson, right? That is, movie 1 has been released. There's a Penguin show coming out next year, and there's 2 other movies confirmed. So you have a trilogy there.
Wow.
I don't really want to be in the middle of that trilogy and then have another Batman movie that has nothing to do with that Batman as something else I need to follow. I'd like there to be some time between the 2.
Are we overloading on Batman?
I think so.
I mean that's a lot about one character. Plus he's showing up in the Justice League. He's showing up in the Flash. I mean, this dude is everywhere, and that's kind of cool. But it's like, you know, first of all, you're not leaving room for other characters. But now it's like, and they're shitty.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing that they space them out.
Yeah,
because I'm not having those movies come out too close to one of other. We talk about this here a lot too. Is the casual audience? We are pretty much. I mean, we're like diehards. We've been comic fans forever. But there is I just noticed we both have Wakanda hats. Look at that.
I was just looking at that. Right.
We did not even plan that.
I was just looking at that too.
Great minds think alike, you know. But I think for the casual audience, like think about you bring in one of your friends who barely watches these movies, to watch one Batman movie, and then like 6 months later you're watching another one, and he's asking you, "Wait, how come there's a different actor?" You're like, "No, it's a different storyline." Like, why is there 2 Batmans? No, there's not. They don't take place in the same universe.
Exactly.
He's lost. He's like, dude, let's just go watch the It movies. But I think this is a good thing that they can, you know, put this on the back burner for a little bit, and also take your time with it. A lot of times what happens with these movies is they get rushed, and then the movie comes out. Here's what happens: they promote this movie. It sounds great. First trailer looks amazing. They rush it out, right? They try to, we got to get out there. Everyone's excited. Then we go watch it, and everyone goes, this movie sucks because it feels like they rushed it. This part, the CGI was bad, and this blah, blah, blah. And then you know what they do? They come out at the end, and they go, yeah, we rushed the movie. That's why it was bad.
Right.
Okay, well, hey, I got an idea. Stop fucking rushing the movies.
Right. Or you didn't understand what we was trying to put out because we rushed it. So it's your fault that you don't get it, and it was bad.
Right. Yep, that's another one. Yep, it's all our fault. So this is a good one. All right, next. Deadpool 3, Captain America 4 are among Marvel release date changes as the strike ends. So part of the, the strike obviously pushed all this stuff back. This news is kind of like it was inevitable. Right. It was just a matter of time for the strike to end, for them to then announce that they moved these movies back. But think about it. There's been months where they've not been able to work on them, so obviously they're going to be delayed. So Deadpool 3 was originally supposed to drop May 3rd of next year. Yep. Instead, it's now pushed back to July 26th of next year. So that's not, dramatic, 2-3 months.
Sure.
That's good. I guess we can deal with that. Captain America, New World Order, which actually, I think this article may be wrong. So I thought they changed the name to Brave New World or something like that.
I don't know, dude.
They'll probably change it again. Who knows? But that movie has now been moved back 9 months because the original release date was in July. It's now pushed back to February of 25. Thunderbolts with Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, that is moved to July 25th of 25. That was originally supposed to come out December 20th of 24. Blade, starring Mahershala Ali, has been delayed 9 months, moving back from November 7th of moving back from February 14th of 25 to November 7th of 25. We're talking 2 years out now. And this, I'm going to kind of echo what I said about the other movie, Batman Brave and the Bold. I think these are also probably good things.
Sure.
But
do me a favor. You release some stuff like Thanksgiving.
Right.
We got this lull where, there's nothing really coming out. I mean, you can't really call the Marvels something that's coming out. But, I mean, we have this lull where, like, nothing happens.
Right.
I understand that, it's the holidays, it's Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But, everybody doesn't want to, concentrate on Thanksgiving. Right. Matter of fact, Thanksgiving not even a holiday anymore. It's kind of a speed bump, right? Yeah. It's not even part of Christmas. It's just forgotten. It's like, okay, I got to get over this speed bump to get to my destination, and the speed bump being Thanksgiving.
Right.
So, I mean, just release some stuff in the fall, like after the summer, because everything is, the summer. This summer's blockbuster. Well, it's not a blockbuster. Right. Or they release it in the spring. Or they want to release it around Christmas time when we already got 10 million other things to do. Why don't you release some stuff in the fall, so we can just kick back, give us a nice, steady stream of content, like sports. You can't even turn on. I thought that you could turn on the channel at some point during the year and not see football, at least.
Not anymore.
Now, not anymore. Now, it's continuous. Right. There's a continuous stream of sports everywhere. Do the same thing with the movies.
Yeah.
You got the content.
Absolutely. Well, you got this good news, though. In 2025, Adrian, 2 years from now, November 7th, right. Blade will come out. So in 2 years around Thanksgiving, a little bit before, you'll be able to watch Blade.
Well, unless they push it back again.
Exactly.
Or move it somewhere else.
Which, yeah, I'm sure that will happen. But, so what I also, after looking at all these release dates being moved around, made me realize that next year, the only Marvel movie that's going to hit theaters is Deadpool 3. That's it.
Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen a handful this year. This has probably been one of the most active years, so,
right.
In a while. But maybe it is enough, So I don't know that this is all bad. I mean, it's good because, number one, they're getting back to work, right? Everyone's getting paid as they should. What else we got going on? The Marvels. We both saw the Marvels.
Yep.
We're going to save our direct feedback for later, right? But the box office, this was the lowest box office opening ever for the MCU at $47 million.
Wow.
That's crazy. Lower than movies like The Eternals, lower than Ant-Man 3. I mean, this one, lower than Thor Love and Thunder.
OMG.
Yes. So, why do you think this happened? Now, part of the blame, which I've read, was, because of the strike, they couldn't go on their normal promo tour, right? Normally, when a movie like this comes out, like we would have seen the 3 stars, Brie Larson, Tiana Paris, and I forget Ms. Marvel's the actor's name, but we would have saw those 3 go on a world tour promoting this. They would have been on shows, and they may have stopped by Only Comics. I mean, who knows, right? It's like there's so many possibilities. They probably would have let Tom Cruise watch the movie at some point, but a lot that didn't happen because of the actor strike. So I do think that played a big role in this, right? The other piece, I mean, what about you? What do you think? Is it marketing? Like, why do you think this movie bombed this weekend?
A couple of reasons, but a question first, though. So the actor strike, does it prevent them from promoting themselves in the movies, or can they go out on their own and promote? It's
weird. They can, but it's kind of like a cultural thing where, or just like an honor thing. Like if the studios are not paying us, I'm not going to go out and promote their movie until we get this fixed.
Yeah, but in today's world, I mean, like back in the day when you became Superman, that's all you did. You didn't show up as anything else, or James Bond. You were only that until you stopped being that actor. Now you could be Superman, you could be over here, you can be Batman over there, you can be some, Jack the Ripper in some other movie, blah, 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 blah. But so you're not promoting necessarily the theater or the studio, you're promoting yourself.
Yeah.
You're promoting your ability to act and to be in other shows for the future. I mean that's the way I would look at it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
But I think, the strike means you're not going to work at all in Hollywood, and I guess that is considered like part of the actor's job to promote the film. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the actor's getting paid to be in the film, but everything else that comes out of it, the studio's picking that up.
Right, got you. So the other thought about why it's not doing so well is because there's been this downward trend of movie quality, I think. I think the expectation is that it was going to suck. And, I mean, I could be at fault. We had Only Comics.
Yeah.
I could be at fault because I kind of shit on Brie Larson. And everybody else was like, maybe that guy's right.
Probably.
So, we're not going to watch it because Adrian said that, Brie Larson sucks as Captain Marvel. I'm not sure, but I primarily think that because Marvel has put out not very good quality movies for such a period of time consistently.
Yeah.
I think the expectation is that I just wait for it to show up on streaming.
The audience is a little gun shy now.
Right.
That's a good point. I wouldn't be surprised because, you don't know how good or bad the movie is until you see it. Right. But to your point, based off of the way, I mean, this past year, of all the Marvel movies that came out, I mean, Guardians 3 was probably the only good one. I'm not saying Marvel, MCU, because we got Across the Spider-Verse, but they can't count that, But for MCU stuff, outside of Guardians 3, is there anything that came out where you're like, ooh, I want to go see that again? Or No.
Dude, I've probably forgotten most of the movies that I've seen, only because they don't stick in my head.
Right.
Nothing about them is like, oh, my God, blah.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Spider-Verse thing, that doesn't count. So, I mean, which is also a good movie. We just actually watched that again.
Oh, okay.
Me being my wife, and my grandson.
Yeah.
And, it was enjoyable again.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is iconic, but no particular movie stands out as being like, oh my God, I got to go watch that.
Nope. Of all the stuff, and I'm trying to think. I'm like, I said there was a handful. I can't remember what Marvel movies came out this year.
Exactly. Except
for Guardians 3. Because I'm like, that's probably the only one that I've rewatched. That was a good one.
Yep.
And someone said in the comments, side note, they're like, oh, I must be crazy. How could Guardians 3 be better than Guardians 1? Because it is. Because it's a better movie. Like, stop. With the character arcs and rock. I mean, that's a whole, I could get into that for an hour. Like, knock it off. Anyways, so next up, what else we got? Marvel, MCU delays. Oh, so a lot of the delay was based off of the actor strike. Marvel, I think they're trying to hide a little something that got out here, okay? So Captain America 4, which is Anthony Mackie playing Captain America, Brave New World. All right, so this article got it right.
Right.
When we get big enough, we might have to shout out some of these websites, but not now, not yet. But the one I'm reading from, which will go unnamed, got the name of the movie right. Captain America, Brave New World. This movie, Adrian's getting extensive reshoots after negative test scores. So now I got a couple comments about this. Number one, we should be included on some of these tests for now on.
True.
Because
I was thinking I had only one comment, but now that you bring that up, yeah, I got two now.
All right, cool, yeah. But we should. I mean,
Right.
because we know what we're talking about. Matter of fact, when we get to Loki, so there's a character in Loki called He Who Remains, right?
Mm-hmm.
I might change my moniker on this show, Adrian. I might call myself He Who Is Right.
Right. Of course, makes sense.
What do you think?
Hey, yeah. I mean, after Loki,
yeah.
I think that'll work. I think that'll work.
All right, cool. So it's going to go up on the lower third, you know. So number one, we should be included on some of these tests, you know, whatever they call them, these test screenings, and we can give you the honest feedback, the right answers. But I guess they tested some major scenes too, like not just some bullshit scenes, some major scenes in the movie they did not test well. So now they are reshooting massive chunks of this movie. Man, so yeah, that's
wow.
My number one thought is, number one, we should review these. Number two is I don't know. I think it goes back to them trying to do this too fast. I don't think this was well thought out. I think that the shows have been good, but it's a different audience, right? So I think in order for you to really want to see Anthony Mackie as Captain America, I think you've had to watch and enjoy the show, which I saw the show. I thought it was okay. And I think what Chris Evans did as that character, it's hard to top that. And he did it's almost like the reverse effect of the movies. You said the movies have been so bad, people don't want to go see them. Chris Evans was so good, I almost don't want to see Anthony Mackie as Captain America.
Right.
I think he's a great actor. I think he did a great job with what was given to him. But I think at every moment seeing him in that suit, people are going to be thinking, what if that was Chris Evans?
Right. So my two comments are, yes, watch only comics. Get your news and information from here. The second thing is that nobody wants to see Anthony Mackie as Captain America. That you can do all the reshoots you want to, but unless you put Chris Evans back in that suit, it's not going to make any difference.
Right.
It's too much of an iconic changeover. The reason that Jason Momoa, is that how you pronounce his last name? Momoa. The reason
I like Jason Momoa though.
Hey, that works too. The reason that Jason Momoa was able to transition Aquaman over so well was because Aquaman up to that point was shit.
Yeah.
He was in nothing. He was nobody. Now, Aquaman as a character was supposed to be Superman underwater.
Right.
Right. And they've, in the comics they had, the green and gold suit with him flapping his legs and talking. That's all he did.
Right.
But the Jason Momoa character, they were able to just erase all that stuff because nobody really seen Aquaman other than in Smallville, right?
Right.
With the guy that now currently plays Preacher, which is actually a good show, by the way.
100%.
Anyway, plug in that. So when the money starts coming in, we want to be well-rounded here. You can, all other movie studios can send us money as well.
Right.
But so Jason Momoa was able to pull that off because Aquaman was so obscure, nobody really had a reference.
Right.
So now you take a Chris Evans Captain America and you make him Tony Stark iconic. You make him Black Panther iconic. You make him what's the guy with the patch?
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury iconic. You do these iconic roles and then you switch them over. I mean, people aren't ready for that's too much.
You think it was too
because
soon?
it's already got a base.
You think it was too because obviously they retired Chris Evans' version of this character.
Right.
I mean, at some point we're gonna see another Captain America, but I think it happened so soon.
Right.
Like the next week there's a show. I felt like that. Like Endgame happened, and then 2 weeks later there's a show on Disney Plus where Anthony Mackie's assuming the role. Like, do you think if Anthony Mackie do you think he could have assumed the role later and people would have been more ready for it? No?
No.
Got it.
There is no version of No.
There you have it here on Only Comics. I trust you. All right, that's our news. Do we have a buster this week, Adrian? Do we have a buster? We've not had one actually, we had one last week. I mean, I guess the buster for me would have to be the MCU with this recent Marvel. I mean, we'll get into our scores and stuff later, but I don't think the movie was horrible. I don't think it was the greatest movie ever. I don't think it deserved that box office, though. Or do we just put this on Hollywood because I guess the strike was the reason why the movie didn't do well?
You know what? I'm looking at this strike and what's going on with the MCU and the DCU like COVID.
Okay.
There was a lot of bad stuff that happened during COVID. But, on the other side, having made our way through it, I think there's going to be a lot of positive stuff that as a result of COVID. So if COVID never happened, certain things would not have also happened.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost a lot of people, and I'm not saying anything about that, but I think there is some positive, because at the end, you have to look at the positive stuff too.
Right.
We just don't really know what that positive is right now.
Right.
But I think there's some positive stuff that's going to come out of this strike that we're not yet privy to right now. So I'm not going to say that they're a buster, but I mean, they did some, underhanded things in, in the process. They tried to make money for themselves, which is what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But you can't make money without the people that help you make the money.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily say we have a buster, but we also haven't seen the other side of what's going to happen with this strike at this moment.
Right. Yeah, and I can agree. I don't think there's not an obvious buster.
Right.
There's not an obvious one, so might be a little bit of a stretch.
And because we can't always focus on the negative, we have to think that there's something positive going to come out of this.
Be.
Because how long can they continue to make bad movies, right?
Right. Yeah, eventually they got to make a good one, right? Like it's like if you gamble, right? Eventually you're going to hit. Dude. You'll lose enough money along the way, but eventually you'll hit. So yeah, eventually the MCU will make, and I think it will be with Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to fuck that one up. They can do it. But
they can definitely do it.
If anyone can do it, it's MCU.
I mean, what they say, a broken clock is right twice a day or something like that. I mean, and the fact that Deadpool is the only MCU movie that's coming out next year, that's a lot riding on that. So I hope they do well, and I hope they don't mess it up.
Yeah. We should have another segment here, like the rumor mill. So I have a rumor that I heard this week. I'm gonna throw at you and see what if you would say yay or nay to this, if you'd like for this to come into fruition. So as of right now, and I say as of right now because things can change. It was funny. We posed the question a few weeks back: could you replace Kang with Doom? Is Doom a strong enough character, right?
Yep.
And then a lot of people on TikTok, believe it or not, misunderstood the question, and they thought that we were saying like we should replace Kang with, or that they're going to, or whatever. And one guy's reasoning for why he knew it wasn't going to happen, he goes, "Well, there's a movie called Kang Dynasty they're making." Like, hey, bruh, there was a time when there was no Endgame, and there was going to be Infinity War Part 1 and 2. I don't know if you remember this, but there was going to be Infinity War 1 and 2. And then they decided after writing and filming it that it was so much of its own movie that they needed to change the title. And they even did a little marketing deal where they released the title like you would try to guess it and stuff like that. So my point is the movies can change.
Right.
Just because they plan on making a Kang Dynasty in 5 years or whatever the hell, it doesn't mean they could change it. It could be Doom Dynasty. It could be Age of Ultron 2. Who the hell knows? They could change it, right? But as of right now, Kang Dynasty is the movie they're making, and Secret Wars, right? The rumor for Secret Wars is that they're going to, and it starts in Deadpool 3, where they're going to try to find the prime variants of all of these Avengers to help win this multiversal war. Okay. This rumor I've seen a bunch is that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man will be pretty much one of the leaders of that Avengers team with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Okay. Is that something that you would like to see, or hearing that rumor, do you go, I hope they don't do that?
I think we discussed this a few weeks back. I am unsure because Wolverine and Spider-Man haven't really been in leadership roles.
Right.
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't expect a lot out of it.
What about those actors, though? Hugh Jackman, yeah, he's the only Wolverine, but do you think, if they were to do that, is is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man the right choice?
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't want to see, either of the other two coming out in any way. So if they're gonna do a Spider-Man, I am comfortable enough with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to pull off whatever they need to.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Next up, we have a segment that we call Hidden Gem. This is a segment. This is Adrian's segment. Where you break down sometimes obscure, sometimes not so obscure, but I think characters that part of the theme has been we've never really seen them done justice on screen, right? I mean, like you've had Doctor Doom, who's been on screen, but I think we both agree they did not do him justice,
right?
So there's some of these characters, and I really think this segment, Adrian, if some of the studio execs watch this more, they'd be able to create better movies.
Right.
Because you're basically laying out a blueprint for characters that they should use.
Right.
Instead of, to your point, using the same 6 characters for the next 30 years. Like instead of having Anthony Mackie play Captain America, why not flesh out Falcon more?
Exactly.
Right? Why not pull another character from the comics and use them? So, Hidden Gem. Who do you have on Hidden Gem this week, Adrian?
So I'm going to roll right into this off of what you just said about there's so many other characters out there. So Anthony Mackie shouldn't be playing Captain America, period. Because there are so many other characters he can play, but the studios won't play them. And this week's Hidden Gem is a prime example of one of those characters that can be on the screen and can be anywhere, literally anywhere. All right, so this week's Hidden Gem is a Marvel character in X-Men that came out in the early 80s, and his name is Forge. Forge is a mutant technology person. So we got Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, we have Reed Richards, and Tony Stark, all geniuses. Regardless of their powers, they are geniuses. They're able to look at a problem or come up with something or create something step by step by step by step, create this thing, and it's great. Well, Forge, his mutant ability. So first of all, before I get into that, so a little bit about him. So this guy, he's a Native American, right? He's a military vet, and he has mystical powers. So even before you get into his ability to create technology, you have those things. That in and of itself is reason enough to have him show up. And even if he's like the CSI team or the IT team, he could literally, you can pop him down in any movie doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that's important. So his mutant ability is he's unlike Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom, who are genius level intellect, and they know that they have to step by step come up with technology. Forge's ability to create tech is he doesn't know the steps.
Okay.
He just intuitively can make stuff. So in other words, if I have A and I want Z, Tony Stark, Doom, Richards, they go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z. This dude goes from A to Z, and he doesn't know any of this stuff in between. He just can make the tech.
Got it.
That's it. Not only can he make the tech, he can look at tech and deconstruct it immediately and know the ins and outs of it, know how to reapply it, all this other kind of stuff. So that's why he's been called the most powerful mutant in the Marvel universe. Not because he has Superman's strength or his speed or Shazam or all this, Cyclops' blast or whatever, but his power comes from he can make tech that can do anything from shatter worlds, open up wormholes. He created a mini wormhole device for Mystique to go out and try to get rid of somebody. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
His ability. So, but why can't he fit into any world? Well, so So he's the tech side. So he was a part of the X-Men, in and out, kind of a drifter. So think about him as the IT person or the engineer behind the X-Men. He created the Blackbird.
Yeah.
He created their war room where they do all their training and stuff. Wow. He creates, holographic rooms. I mean, so stepping back, he was a Native American from the Cheyenne tribe, right? He was a shaman.
Okay.
He got really into that he was a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
He went in and during some process, he ordered a strike onto let me step back. His commander got assassinated. He became so distraught and so angry, he opened up a portal to a demon universe and brought out all these demons and stuff to attack, the enemy.
Yeah.
That got out of control. So he ordered a strike on his location to close the portal and get rid of these demons. In the process, he lost his right leg and his right hand, right? Which he eventually later on recreated. So when you see him now, you see him with the iconic mechanical leg.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks like what's the X-Men? Colossus.
Yep.
Right? But sometimes it looks like really archaic, kind of old, like the old school mechanical android kind of a look. But he created those things and he constantly evolving that stuff. So he can literally, with the mysticism power, right? With the technology power, with the fact that he was, in the military, he's a above average warrior, right?
Yep.
Hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that. So you can pop him in any Iron Man, Fantastic Four movie because he can go toe to toe with those two guys. On any tech stuff. He can show up in, let's say, any Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
Because of the mysticism thing. I mean, he doesn't use it as much only because he's afraid because of what happened the last time. Right? It's not that he can't do it. It's just he doesn't want to do it. He can show up with anything that Constantine has to do, right? Another mystic, or Dr. Fate. So, and then of course he can create tech because a lot of the stuff that you see happening in the movies that involve a lot of tech, like Batman, right? Obviously he's not a genius. He's a genius, but he's not like a Tony Stark level.
Right.
I'm talking about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And he has money where he can sit around and, build a lot of his stuff. But then, he's got now his whole team in his corporation building stuff for him. But sometimes you wonder, where does this tech come from? Where did the Blackbird come from? Where did the War Room come from? Professor X didn't build it, right? So somebody built it. He can be in that background building stuff for all kinds of people. As a matter of fact, he, when Tony Stark stopped making weapons, S.H.I.E.L.D. brought on Forge.
Yeah.
And he was building weapons for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wow.
So he's all over the place, literally.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I love this guy. I attached to him because, I did my little, tinkering and drawing and stuff like that when I was a kid. So he was right along my alley, along with Doom and Richards and Stark and stuff like that. So that's my man Forge.
So you may have a variant out there that is like a He Who Remains. I mean, because you sound like, a little Victor Timely in you when you were younger creating.
Dude, when I was 4, I remember when I was 4, I laid down in the middle of my aunt's hallway. I took a piece of paper and I started designing an artificial planet.
Yeah.
Now, back then, I only knew, so we had the encyclopedias. So, the big, I don't even know if you guys know what that is. Now Wikipedia, where you can look it up, but encyclopedia. These are books, right?
You had to have a whole bookshelf because of how many. I remember my aunt and uncle, it was like, dude, like 20 books. They all were like this thick. Yeah.
Yep. Matter of fact, we had door-to-door salesmen. This is how far back. Door-to-door salesmen going around selling books, dude.
Yep.
And you get them in volumes. They would send you like a
encyclopedia salesman was like a thing, right?
Yep.
I've never seen them, but I've heard those stories.
Yep.
So you're walking around selling freaking, bundles of books.
Exactly. And you would get them in volumes, and they would send you volumes periodically as you paid them off and stuff. But in these books, so I would open them up, And, this is, when nuclear stuff was just coming out, the steam engines were still kind of like hanging around doing certain things. So I designed this planet in the middle, based off my comic experience / read my encyclopedias, right?
Right.
In the middle of it was, I created it where it would be steam, like the core of the Earth.
Yeah.
It would be a giant steam power plant, right? And then the workers that worked around them, they would be like bulky, heavy, knuckle dragging, to deal with the heat and the pressure and all that kind of stuff. And then as you came out in this planet that I designed, it would in layers. As you came out, it got better and better and better. And then on the surface, you would have something. But this whole thing was being closed in a dome. And the dome would have plants and mythological creatures, and which was all going to be cyber animatronics, they call them, right? So cyborg representation of animals, they call them cyber animatronics. So I designed all this stuff, and then over time, as people tell you that that's impossible, your mind starts shutting down. My ideas got smaller, so I designed a domed city that can be on Mars, where the dome would capture, because the Mars surface is turbulent. The wind comes across, it hits these turbines, generate power, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you're dreaming. Then that turned down into, I can put a city inside of a volcano, and it'll reach down into the volcano and get its power from geothermal. Oh, you're crazy. So after a little while, I'm in my early 20s, and I just gave up.
Yeah. Man, you could have been the next Elon Musk.
But I identify with all these guys in comics that that had technology backgrounds, and Forge was one of my dudes. He was like, to me, one of those little hidden gems, because I can kind of relate to him more because I didn't have Tony Stark's money, right? Or Reed Richards, university. These are just like super brainiacs. But for some reason, I identify more with Forge than I did with these other guys. Only because he was kind of like, he didn't have at the time the money or the access all these other guys did. So he was definitely an inspiration for me. But this also goes into, there's so many other characters. We got like 18 Batman movies coming out now. We don't need to have all these different variants of, and variant not meaning variant of the characters, but variations of the movies that they have coming out. But you take a person like a Forge, and you can pop him in any place. Native American, so you have a Native American, superhero. They don't promote a lot of, different. I'm surprised how well Ms. Marvel did. Right? So, the ability to go in and grab other characters from the comic books and pull them out and place them in different arenas. I think they're losing a lot of people just on that alone.
Right.
Again, this guy's been around since 84?
Yeah.
He's hardly ever mentioned, but he can most certainly pop in and out of any kind of movie anywhere.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. When you send it to me, it's funny. I read the name and I could picture the face, but I'm like, I don't know anything about this dude because my only exposure to Forge was X-Men the Animated Series. He was in an episode, maybe just one episode, and I believe he was the leader of X-Force in that episode. It was like a different kind of version. The animated series, they changed a little bit. And so I remember he always looked cool. Who he reminds me of a little bit is Corsair.
Yes.
He kind of looks similar.
Right.
I didn't even know he was Native American because of the way he was drawn, it's really hard to tell.
Right.
But with the bandana, maybe that's their little cue. But and no, this was a great choice, great pick. Definitely has me interested in the character. Like, I didn't know all that he created the Blackbird, all the X-Men tech. So basically, when the Wi-Fi goes down in the X-Mansion, he's got to reset the router too, right? They call him.
That's probably a little much, but sure.
But no, great pick. And with this, before we get into the next segment, this leads me to something that I think we've not discussed this on the show, but people talk a lot about representation in comic book movies, right? And I'm all for it. I think it's great, but this is what I don't like. I don't like when we go, hey, let's take this character who is very popular and just change the race to change the race.
Right.
I thought you like representation. I do. My thing is, there are so many other characters in the comics that y'all can pull from.
Exactly.
Let's not just make Iron Man black to make him black, and make Captain America Chinese just cause.
Right.
Like we have those characters. We have Native American characters. There's black characters. There's Hispanic characters. There's Asian characters. There's all kinds of characters to pull from that already exist. Let's just take some of these hidden gems, right?
Exactly.
And let's make those characters popular instead of taking a popular character and just changing the race. That's how I feel about it.
I absolutely agree. I 1,000% agree with you. There's so much, and that's what I mean by there's so much content. That is the stories.
Right.
But then there's so many characters across so many different races and ethnicities and all kinds of stuff. And they spend so much time trying to change things instead of drawing on the base that they already have.
Right.
There's a lot of strong characters, like this Forge person. You got, there's so much other stuff. I got a whole list of hidden gems. And a lot of them, they're not streamlined, but they're as powerful has the potential to be as iconic as the ones that we're watching 13 versions of today.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, I wish we'd see more of that, of these obscure ones. Like, we haven't seen a great Native American character on screen.
Right.
The only one I even remember briefly, which when you were going through this, it kind of reminded me of this. X-Men Days of Future Past, the movie. If you remember in the future scenes when they're fighting the Sentinels and they keep going back a few days and being killed again, Warpath was in there, who's Native American.
Right.
But he also could be a hidden gem that we don't know. I don't know a lot about him. He's, here or there, but that's about he was just a sideline character.
Right.
And I think to an extent, I think the MCU has probably done the best job at this, like characters like Shang-Chi, instead of just let's make some random character Asian to have that representation, let's use a character, and cast them right. That's also something that happens too often is they whitewash characters. How many white samurais are out there?
Right. Johansson, Scarlett Johansson playing
the Ghost
in the Shell.
Yeah.
Dude, I was upset about that.
Or Tom Cruise is like the last samurai or something, whatever that was.
Right. I can even buy that. Some guy in the war got captured, but instead of getting killed, he became raised so he can, whatever. He was shown a different side. I can buy that, and that's cool, and that's good. Tom Cruise plays those movies well.
Yeah.
But taking a Scarlett Johansson and putting her in a epic. Ghost in the Shell is a pretty epic movie.
I've not seen it, but I've heard.
And to put her in it was a travesty.
Yeah. So no, I like. I guess a couple other good examples would be Ms. Marvel, like you named.
Yep.
Even Blue Beetle wasn't the greatest movie ever.
Right.
Wasn't the worst movie. It's probably one of the DC's better movies.
Yep.
And they did great representation there.
Sure.
Like I think that was probably one of the better aspects of that movie. Like when we get to the Marvels, one of my favorite characters in the Marvels is Ms. Marvel's mom.
Right.
She's great.
Yep.
But anyway, next, Adrian, this is now time to agree or disagree.
Okay.
This is our newer segment here, which y'all seem to love or sometimes hate. Which I encourage it. Bring it on. I'm going to rapid fire 10 of my opinions at Adrian, and Adrian's going to let you and me know right here on the spot if he agrees or disagrees. Okay. Last week, I think you disagreed once last week, but I got some stuff in here for you this week, so we'll see. Some of this actually is going to contradict opinions that I had weeks ago. Okay. Because we're also not afraid to change our stance here.
Sure.
We don't have our heels dug in that much, dude. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Number one. The Marvels was not better than Black Adam.
It was not better than Black Adam.
All right. The Marvels was better than Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Loki is now a top 5 MCU character.
Agree.
Loki is the best MCU show to date.
Agree.
Marvel should keep Jonathan Majors as their main baddie, as they call him.
Agree.
Batman the Animated Series was better than X-Men the Animated Series.
Agree.
Dar-Ben is the worst MCU villain since Malekith from Thor 2.
Dude, what's with the grill? We got to talk about that one, but I agree.
You're going to watch Batman Returns on Christmas Day.
No.
Marvel can't touch DC's animated movies.
Agree.
Only Comics is the best comic podcast on YouTube.
Agree.
All right. Well, one down this week, too.
Hey.
And we'll see. What do y'all say about, do y'all agree? Do you not agree? Let us know. There it is. Agree or disagree this week. All right. Now the fun, Adrian.
Now the fun.
We need a drum roll here, you know.
Right.
We need a drummer. Like the Tonight Show, you know, Jimmy Fallon has
Yep.
all.
Yep.
They're coming sooner. They'll be here any day, Adrian.
That's
any
it.
week. 1 week you're going to show up here, and they're all going to be here. Hair and makeup's going to be here, the lighting tech. But for now, it's just us. So the Marvels. I've seen it. I went when it came out Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It was me, my daughter, and honestly 4 other people in the movie theater.
Yep.
And somehow I bought tickets to the movie that had subtitles.
What?
Yeah, I didn't even know this was a thing. The guy's like, "Oh, it has closed captions." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, it makes it easier to hear." I'm like, no, dude, I fucking know why they exist.
Right,
I want to know why I'm going to the movies and they have them on this movie. No one's going to see this movie anyways, right? Like, can you just turn them off since it's just me in here anyways? But they were on. They weren't that bad.
I never. And the thing with that subtitles is that I find myself watching the subtitles and not the movie.
Right.
I whatever.
Now, if it's something I've seen a few times, I don't mind because I get to hear, because there are some times I don't know what the hell they say on
Exactly.
screen. I mean, you know, as I get older, Adrian, keep listening to loud music. I'm like, I can't hear shit.
Already there.
Yeah, so I'm on my way. I'm joining you soon.
Right.
So anyways, it had that. Then this was the best part, though. The movie was supposed to start at 5:45. Mm-hmm. Now, you've been in movies a bunch. There's previews before the previews, then there's the actual trailers, and then those go on for almost 30 minutes before the movie starts, right? We sit down and nothing's playing. Normally they have those the movie theater
the popcorn
stuff,
shit,
the marketing
right,
shit. Yeah, they get your popcorn, the stupid quizzes, who was in Footloose when, whatever, stuff like that, right? Use your phone to answer all that stupid shit. Right. Then Nicole Kidman comes out. Yep. AMC theaters. Every fucking time. Right. My daughter's like, our theater doesn't look like that, and who's this lady? Why does she? So, anyways, all that doesn't happen, dude. It's 5:50 and nothing's on the screen. So I get up. I'm like, the 2, 3 or 4 kids that are sitting there at the concession stand. I'm like, hey, there's nothing playing on the screen. He goes, what time's the movie start? I go, 5 minutes ago. Don't you know what time it starts? But anyway, so they started it. We saw 2 previews, and the movie started. So it was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Normally I go, matter of fact, it's gotten so bad that I don't even get to the movie until 30 minutes after the start time. Yeah. Unless I'm going to stop by the concession stand. Right. I mean, you need 5 or 10 minutes at a concession stand because you got to fill out the loan forms. Yep, exactly. And have the operation to get your kidneys removed just to get some popcorn and the soda.
One large popcorn, dude, $47.
Dude, yesterday I went with my grandson. I got a large soda. He got some candy. I got some candy and some cheese with a bag of chips. Now they don't even dig their hands in it anymore and plop it on your plate. Yeah, the nachos. They just give you the bag of nachos, which is, I guess, is cool. Yeah. $30. Yeah. $30. Yeah. So anyway, if you're gonna stop by the concession stand, I'll show up 10 minutes early. So if the movie's gonna start at 2:15, I'll show up 2:40. Gotcha. So I can stop by the concession stand and then go into the movie, and then all the other stuff is going on. So it's pretty bad. Yeah. But so good for you. At least you got through that.
Yeah, I got somehow I got away with it, or got through it. So, but the Marvels. Before we get into we're not gonna do a huge deep dive. So we have Loki season 2 as well. We're gonna just kind of give you. We'll just give ups and downs. But the Marvels. Let's give it a score, Adrian. Yep. I'm gonna go with 5.8.
Wow.
Yeah.
5.8.
Yep.
I'm actually going to go with a 7.5.
Wow.
7.5.
This is a first here.
Yep, and I'll tell you why later, but
all
yeah,
right. 7.5. 5.8. Right. Now, I will also, let's give the audience a little preview of what happens sometimes here. Uh-huh. We get to talking, and then sometimes we move our scores by the end, right? So I didn't say this earlier, but Adrian, we are not experts. No. We're not expert critics. We're just, we're only fans.
Exactly.
Well, we're not only fans, so we're going to keep our clothes on. But we are just fans, right?
Exactly. There we go. That's better.
I'm starting at 5.8.
Okay.
I'm going back and forth between a 6 and a 5.8, but let's see if you talk me up. Let's see if I talk you down. So,
Okay.
I'm gonna start with downs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The villain, Darben, I think I said this earlier and agree to disagree, is probably the worst villain we've had since the Malekith Dark Elves guy from Thor. You probably didn't even remember him until I brought him up.
Whatever.
Now, when I say it, it was like he just was like a dark elf, and I don't remember what he did in the movie.
Right.
But so now Marvel, the MCU, they've been accused in the past of having a villain problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've made tons of great movies. A few good ones and some shitty ones, right?
Right.
More shitty now. But they're even in some of their really good movies, some of their villains were very like sea level, right? Mm-hmm. But now they had some great ones. Loki, Thanos. I mean, Kang right now I think is top tier. Then they've had some, shittier ones like Malekith. Like, what was that thing that Thor fought in the first movie? Remember that big robot shit?
Yep, that was
Destroyer or something.
Yeah, the Destroyer. He was like the security guard for Asgard.
Yeah, like that was like really boring. Like these guys know you don't even talk.
Right.
So for me, why Darben was a poor villain for me was she was boring. Mm-hmm. I think she didn't look like a main villain. Right. She was dressed like she was the hostess at fucking Applebee's. It's just like this black like smock thing,
right? And
she's got Ronin's hammer for some reason.
I didn't get that either, but
so to me the villain was a big issue. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's a 5.8, a little harsh. To me a movie felt very mid. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great. Right. And I think that some of the stuff felt rushed. Mm-hmm. It was shorter, which I didn't mind, but being a shorter movie, it just seemed like it rushed. And then the last part of I'm waiting for this big ending, and I feel like it went like this. Right. So that I guess those are my downs. So before I give ups, any downs for you?
The downs. Well, first of all, the thing that sticks out to me the most is it's amazing how they continue to stereotype black people. Mm-hmm. It's like, regardless of, your vehicle, they're going to put spinners on your spaceship some kind of way.
Yep.
And assuming that you survive the first 30 seconds anyway, because they always kill off the black people first, yep. Right? So assuming that you survive the first 30 seconds of the movie, they're going to figure out some kind of way. Why does Darben have on gold choppers? That was the thing that stood out to me immediately. So regardless of where you go, black people, they're gonna stereotype you some kind of way. I didn't get that at all. Besides the fact that it was a sub-rated villain. I mean, there was nothing. You know how I say Brie Larson, her face looks like she doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Darben, this character was like, it wasn't super villainy at all.
Nope.
It was like your aunt. They put them in a show and they expect you to be angry or something. It's like it didn't vibe. So that was the big down. I mean, bad. I'm not even going to say it's the actress' fault. It was just that character was not the person to be in there as the villain. Besides the fact that where did Ronin's hammer come from?
Exactly.
I mean, really? And then she didn't do anything. And the other thing was that it just didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Again, it was like when what was his name? In oh my God.
What movie?
The Scroll. Jarvik. Gravik.
Yep.
So Gravik planned, plot, scheme all this time to get all of these scroll powers, right? But then when he got them, some little Lord Fauntleroy character kicks his ass,
like,
right?
I got him too.
Exactly. So Darben looking for these bracelets, get one of them, right? She did a little bit with the Ronin hammer and the bracelet, but then she gets both of them, and then she gets disintegrated.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
What just happened? So that kind of thing didn't make sense. The other bad down part about it was Miss Marvel, she can ignite a sun, but she can't beat Darben's ass in a fight. I don't get that.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. So I don't get that.
Right.
Those kind of things kind of don't jive to me. So I mean, those are the negatives. I mean, there are some positives, but which is why
so
I gave
really
it a
based
7.
around the villain, because even that, like,
right.
So number one, she's boring.
There's that.
Number two, she doesn't look like a villain or super villain.
Stereotyped.
Right, stereotype, the stupid grills. And then the other piece is what you just said. Like, this is a movie where there's 3 heroes, right?
Right.
We have Captain Marvel, we have Monica, who we can't have a nickname for yet for some reason.
Right.
And then we have Ms. Marvel. And Captain Marvel is supposedly the most powerful Avenger, right? Like, she's like Superman level in Marvel.
Right. Or more.
Or more.
Right.
I was even going to throw that, like, could Captain Marvel beat Superman? Like, I think, yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have these 3, and then we're going to have this weak-ass villain who basically killed herself.
Right.
Like, that's my big issue. Now, for the ups.
Yep.
I will say, you may be talking me up, Adrian. You may be talking me up. For the ups, for me, it was a fun movie. The humor hit for the most part. Although, you talk about the representation and the like, do we really need Samuel L. Jackson to yell "Black girl magic" now?
No, we didn't need that.
Was that necessary?
No.
And almost like Sammy boy, when you get that fucking script, can you be like, I'm not saying that shit?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, at what point? That was stupid.
Right.
But for the most part, I think the humor hit.
Any other part about the Sam Jackson character, Nick Fury, is that, I mean, he's fat. I mean, and they keep showing his gut and stuff.
Did he need to be in this movie?
Exactly. I mean, and he's like kind of like limping around.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to run, but he's kind of like got a bad hip kind of a deal. I mean, that's kind of stuff. Nick Fury is a badass. He's a super spy. He should be a super spy until his dying day, if he ever dies.
Yep.
Don't show. I mean, I think they're doing him a injustice when they show the bad parts about him.
He was the comic relief for this. Which, why is Nick Fury the comic relief?
Right.
Yeah, I'm with. I almost, after seeing it, I'm like, I don't even know that Nick Fury needed to be in this movie.
Right.
Not that role playing the babysitter for the parents.
Right. Well, he wasn't a babysitter for just the parents, but also the cats, too, apparently.
Yeah. Or what do they call it? Clerkins? Some shit like that?
My grandson was like, what was that? There was like a hybrid, a mashup between a cat and an octopoid, and I'm like, dude, it was a little bit more than that because it can survive space with Captain Marvel.
Right.
Which was, I'm like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Well,
they were in the first movie.
No, they were.
One of them was.
One of them was in the first movie, but who thought that they could survive? We understood that they had this interdimensional appetite.
Yeah.
But when we thought that, at least I did, I thought when they ate, it was gone.
I thought they were eating them too. Yeah.
Right. But apparently they just put you in a broom closet, for a period of time.
Yeah,
and I knew as soon as I saw the cat hatch from the egg, how they were going to get off the space station.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an obvious thing.
Yeah, I would say that's a little bit of a down. The cats were in there for what, to sell merchandise or something?
Right.
Like,
And then all of a sudden they just start popping out eggs all over the space.
Yeah.
You're thinking it's an invasion, and it's the cat, one cat pulling Adam and Eve, going around like populating the whole space station.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
So it'd be a much better movie. We remove Nick Fury, remove all the cats, but
leave one cat.
Yeah, just one. What I will say, a lot of my critique about Brie Larson's portrayal of Captain Marvel, I can't say it about this movie. I actually felt like she did not annoy me on screen. She felt like she wanted to be there for the most part.
Well, I still got that vibe a little bit. However, there was enough. I don't know the right way to say this. There was a little enough of her for her I don't want to be here face to impact the movie for me, which is why I gave it the 7.5.
Got it.
She was not there. She wasn't present enough to annoy me.
Yeah. And I think her character had somewhat of an arc this time.
Right.
Like, a lot of times she's on screen, it's like she's just there. Right. What is she doing?
Right. And she did show, a range of emotion. Yeah. So her face was more than just a chalkboard, right? She moved, every once in a while.
Yep.
The singing shit was kind of annoying.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That was way stupid. And but she cried a little bit, so she showed some range. So and you're right. So she wasn't as bad in this as she has been in the previous ones. because she was the only one that you had to concentrate on in the previous movies. So now you got a whole bunch of things going on, right? The fights, the Nick Fury, the cats having babies, the 300-year-old dude talking about 401ks, So we had more than just Bree to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. She benefited from this almost ensemble cast, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the three of them had great chemistry.
I agree.
I think the scenes when it was three of them together were some of the best scenes in the movie.
Right. I agree.
I liked, one thing that I really loved was the fact that they had to learn how to manage their power or their body swapping, the switching.
Right.
And a lot of times, this has been a big critique of mine, in these movies, in Blue Beetle, for example. Guy gets powers, then all of a sudden he masters them in 14
exactly.
seconds. Gravik and what was the girl's name?
I don't know.
Her name.
Fauntleroy.
Fauntleroy. Amelia Clark's character, Gaia.
Yeah.
Gaia. So, they get powers and they master them within 14 seconds.
Right.
Stupid. I'm used to the Peter Parker where he don't know how to shoot the webs. He's falling off his shit.
Well, first of all, he didn't know he needed the webs.
Exactly.
He figured that out later.
Right.
But yeah, he's jumping off buildings, falling.
Yep.
All this other kind of stuff. It's They needed. That was good. That was refreshing to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I thought that was cool. That was fun. Again, I said the humor hit for the most part. It wasn't like sometimes with these movies like Thor, Love and Thunder, and even some of the Ant-Man shit, that it's not funny. Right. I don't know who it's funny to. It ain't funny to me. I like the dynamic between Monica and Captain Marvel. So these are things that you don't have to see the other stuff to enjoy this movie. Mm-hmm. But if you do, it adds a lot to it. Mm-hmm. Because we know that, all right, in the first movie, this was like her aunt, and then she kind of left her. Now she feels some type of way about that. Mm-hmm. But we also didn't know, and I think part of my issue with the Captain Marvel character in the past was it was almost like she was too perfect. Mm-hmm. And now we get to see that she has flaws.
Right.
And the whole reason why, it was a good premise as for why Dar-Ben would want to attack Captain Marvel.
Sure.
Because in the first movie, she kills that AI thing, and we think she's doing something good, but that also is what sparked this Kree Civil War.
Right.
So it's like helping, and this is like when you take almost real-world conflicts and disguise them as a superhero movie, right?
Right.
It's stuff that happens all the time. I mean, I love the concept of I'm going to create these jump points and steal resources from one planet to another. It's almost like, we're going to go to this country and steal their resources, and we're going to start a war, George Bush.
Right.
But hey, we're not political here.
Right.
But,
or we're going to discover something where there's already people there.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus. So I think that was a great premise. I think that was but they could have done a little more with it.
Right.
The problem when these movies are short and they're rushed, these big moments have less impact because it happens so quick. Mm-hmm. That's like some Star Wars shit. Darth Vader destroying a planet.
Right.
I mean, you're stealing the atmosphere from one planet, bringing it to another.
Right. I mean, that was awesome. I do wish they would have spent even 5 more minutes. On that, because the concept of that, the impact of that, there was some pretty awesome moves on Dar-Ben's point, even though she didn't really act it out that way.
And who was the dude with the man bun just following her around for a little bit? Like that's supposed to be her sidekick or something?
I don't know. I mean, the guy that goes get the diet Pepsi or something like that. Whatever. I don't know.
His job's to keep the drinks cold. Also, why didn't she look like a Kree? Weren't all the other Krees blue?
Not all of them. Apparently, there was a range of because my grandson asked me that. He's like, "Why are some people blue?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. Why aren't they all blue? Because they were supposed to all be blue."
That'd be easier. It's like all the scrolls are green, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't like that either. That was a little odd. And I you mentioned the Ronin's hammer. Now, first of all, I don't know if it's his exact hammer, if it's another version, if more than one Kree can have one. Like, there's no explanation.
Right. It looked a little puny to me.
It did, yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it was a variant.
Yeah.
Of his hammer.
Right.
Maybe it was not his at all, but it just looked at puny.
Yeah. For that, they should have just gave her another. And she never really used it. To your point, like.
Well, she used it. She used it to create the wormholes and stuff, the jump points. She used it to knock the Marvels out of the way. So pretty powerful impact. I remember when they went to the singing planet.
Oh yeah.
She hit the ground and they just kind of like went way away.
That's right.
So she did use it, but I think that with her power set, they could have showed her doing more.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the powers kind of were neutered at different points
Right.
for all the characters.
Yeah.
It was good to see Monica's character because I saw her. I mean, I remember growing up with her in the comics.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of power. She definitely could fly and all this other kind of
Right.
stuff, which was not portrayed until this movie. So
Till
it
you
was
scream
good to
Black
see
Girl
that come
Magic.
out.
That's because no one screamed that at her yet.
Oh,
And
is
then
that what it was? Black
Once
Girl
he screamed
Magic?
it at her, she just knew to fly, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, the villain issue. But, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to change my score yet. Not going to change it yet. I will say, I said this earlier, the CGI, I thought, for the most part, looked phenomenal.
Yep. I agree.
No complaints there.
Yep.
You know, it's like, God, think of, you know, if Ant-Man 3 if they would have pushed that movie out a little bit. And I actually read, I think they swapped release dates or something like that. But thankfully it wasn't rushed. The powers looked good. Even Captain Marvel, like seeing her fly and the cosmic, like, because I think a big part of the fan base has said that cosmic powers have not translated well on screen.
Right.
And I think they're getting better.
Yeah.
I think with Captain Marvel in this, like, there was at the end, I guess Marvel's confirmed this, they consider what she did at the end going binary when she powered the star.
Yeah, but she was, well, they could say that, but they're not showing it. It's almost like how they portrayed Galactus in a cloud.
Right.
Well, she went into a sun and she, relit the sun. I mean, to me, that's not going binary.
Gotcha.
She just went in and probably just, exploded or whatever and reignited this thing. So to me, that's not going binary because when she came out, she was Captain Marvel.
Right, right. If you want to know about going binary, check out The Hidden Gem.
Right.
Adrian, a few weeks back, broke all that down. Now, there's a post or a mid-credit scene, which I think sets up a lot. And actually, before we get to the mid-credit, there's a scene at the end of the movie which sets up something else, too. There's been rumors of this Young Avengers team that they're going to assemble, right? And we've seen, to your point, you don't like when they bring, as you call them, the Crypt Keepers out, right? Like, as much as we're saying, hey, Captain America should be Chris Evans, but we also don't think that Chris Evans should play this for the next 20 years.
Exactly.
Like I'm good with him being retired. I think let's just leave Captain America character on the shelf for a while,
right?
Until it makes sense to have someone reprise it, right? But I like where they're going with these young, like Ms. Marvel's younger.
Right.
Spider-Man, Tom Holland's a younger guy. It's not Tobey Maguire, was 50, right?
Right.
So we saw at the end of the movie
Kamala Khan
show up to Kate Bishop's house. And you've not finished Hawkeye. You saw some of it, but you obviously know Kate Bishop. You saw enough of her, which I thought. Now you've not seen it, but I think she's a much better Hawkeye than Jeremy Renner.
I absolutely agree. I've never liked Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. It just didn't fit.
No.
It just didn't work for me.
Nope.
And
as an actor, I love Jeremy Renner.
Yep, I agree.
In The Town, like he's a great actor. And I think he did a lot with the little was given to him for that character. Because I mean, think about it. He's just wearing I talk about the Applebee's hostess. He's got the same outfit.
Pretty much.
Or maybe he works at Chili's. It may be different.
He was better when he went off script.
Yep.
And started, assassinating people.
Yeah.
That was a better character fit for him. And when we talk about, or when I talk about characters and I don't like, and I use words like I don't like and I hate and blah, 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 I'm not saying that I don't like the actor or actress. I'm not saying I don't like the character that's being portrayed. What I'm saying is the portrayal is wrong. The actor or actress does not fit the character in my mind.
Right.
That's what I'm saying when I said, this person doesn't work. Brie Larson, she looks like she doesn't want to be there. I'm not saying I hate Brie Larson. I'm saying that Brie Larson does not fit Captain Marvel.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the deal. For me, the Hawkeye was more about, he was written as if he didn't matter.
Right.
He was they really didn't give him much shine until this show.
Right.
And also, actually,
when did he come out in Thor?
Thor, he debuted.
He debuted in Thor up on a crane,
And then in the first Avengers movie is where you're talking about, where he was under Loki's spell and he was kind of fighting against the Avengers. And it wasn't really until Endgame where he lost his family, and then he went Ronin, that was slaughtering freaking mob bosses and shit, which is pretty sick.
Right.
Even that, I mean, for a PG-13 movie, even like the little scene where, like, that was a great scene, that movie where Black Widow shows up to,
talk him down,
and whatnot. But I think the best we've seen him was in this show, which, it's a Christmas show, Adrian, so you could watch, you could finish it this season. That the show, it's funny because that scene where Kate Bishop goes to her little flat or whatnot and finds Kamala Khan waiting there, that scene happens in the show, except it's Yelena, Black Widow's sister, because they have some little issue in this show. So when she's walking in, if you've seen the show, you're like, wow, I've seen this before, but it's Kamala Khan. Gotcha. And she's almost playing like this Nick Fury type of character, like she's putting together a team, right?
Yeah, like, she got a little iPad, as she call it.
Yep. And then she mentions, putting together a team or whatnot, and she goes, "Do you know that Ant-Man has a daughter?" So I'm assuming that she probably already recruited her. And there is a handful.
Actually, she didn't. She said that she kind of alluded to where, like, you're the first person I've asked. So please, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, either way, it seems like they're putting together that younger team of Avengers.
And I guess, hold on. The point about my saying, like, my hating stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't mind older actors portraying characters. I don't mind.
Right.
Michael Keaton should have been a mentor to the next Batman, if such thing. Or he could have been Bruce Wayne, but not Batman, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But don't have Michael Keaton, 200 years old, jumping out of a jet.
Right.
Doing cartwheels, landing on the ground without a parachute.
Exactly.
That's the kind of stuff that kind of doesn't make sense in my mind.
Right. Absolutely. He's like the guy in the Marvels. He's 306. Same age.
Right?
Yeah, he's talking about that part was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. It was.
You do IRA, this, that.
Right. So you're on a space station with all this stuff around you, and you find the oldest person in there, and you start talking about finances. That's funny.
It's such a dad moment, too.
Right.
Like, right. That's somebody's dad. That's how they
exactly.
Would act, but talking about the learning the powers, that montage of them learning how to do the switching, like, I like that. It doesn't need to be an hour of the movie.
Right.
Everything doesn't need to be Batman Begins, where Bruce, the whole first half of the movie is him learning martial arts.
Right. And they learned the powers in a way that not only made sense for them to learn it, but it was relatable.
Right.
You do simple things in order to learn how to work with other people, and then you build on that. So I like that scene.
Yeah. One of the, I didn't mention this in my downs because I mentally blocked it out, but then you brought it up. The singing planet was just, it was just stupid.
Yeah, it was.
And then, like, oh, he's bilingual. He doesn't need us. Like, just why?
Right.
Just because I don't know who that actor is. Maybe he's a singer, so that's why they wanted to do it. But it's just unnecessary. That take about 95% of the cats, take Nick Fury, and take the singing out of the movie, and then I probably would be right where you were, score-wise.
Right. I mean, because you don't need – I mean, I understand why Darben is coming there to steal the water from a water planet.
Right.
But the people on the planet don't need to sing through everything.
Doesn't add anything to the movie outside
Zero.
of it. Makes me want to go use the bathroom. Actually, I went to use the bathroom when they were on that planet. It was like, oh, bathroom break.
And then when you came back, they were still singing?
Yeah, yes, they were. Then they were dancing. Here's a state. I almost said this in the Agree to Disagree, but the part where they all get their new suits on that singing planet?
Yep.
Captain Marvel has one of the worst fucking suits I've ever seen in the MCU. The new one.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's horrible.
Right.
It's dull. It's bland. It's almost like that suit was filmed in Gotham. Right, and then the other two are from Metropolis.
I didn't like Monica's suit either. It's like it's bulky. I mean, she's a thick girl.
Yeah.
But it's bulky. They could have did a better job of that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too stealthy.
Okay.
It's too much strategic padding on it, kind of a thing. But I didn't like that one as well.
You're talking about the new one, not the first one.
Any of them.
Okay.
Any of them.
See, I didn't mind hers. I think Ms. Marvel probably had the best one of the three.
Yeah,
the look, the style.
Yep.
But, I mean, Captain Marvel, Monica's wasn't the best, but I'm talking Captain Marvel's is probably...
I mean, you got that big-ass asteroid on your chest. Even when they were dancing and stuff, it's like you got this big
It was
star.
Why is hers so big?
What?
It's way too big, and then it's just it's not bright at all. It's like what they did with Superman's costume in the DCU.
Right.
Superman's bright blue and red, and then they put like 8 freaking filters on it, and it looks like he was shot in James Gunn's garage. They made Captain Marvel's suit in James Gunn's garage.
I don't know what's going on.
So that was the one of the worst suits. That'd be a fun show one of these days. We kind of go through, and we did our Kings of the comic, like if this character fought this character. What if we did suits?
That'd be pretty
like,
cool.
Hey, is this? I mean, we could do one with just Iron Man suits, just Batman suits.
The evolution of suits, right? Yeah, that'd be.
Yep, some cool. Or even name some of our favorite on-screen comic suits, because that's a big thing with these comic movies is you see the suit one way in the comics, and then how are they going to portray it on screen?
Well, I think the thing that they struggle with, like Hugh Jackman now, he's a little older now, so and they gave him sleeves because one to contain that big ass vein that he's got going on one of his arms, but he's probably his muscles are probably maxed out, and they probably a little not as prominent and full as they used to be. I'll say. So I think one of the things that they definitely have an issue with portraying the live action character based on the comic books, because in the comic books they're jacked. Yeah. So now they got to make these suits look similar. Right. So they do all this padding, they do all the stealth stuff, which doesn't make sense, and it makes them just look bulky. Right. And unable to do the things that the character actually can do. It's like, how can Batman do all that stuff regardless of his age? How can he do all that stuff with iron plating and this and that and this shove down here and all this other kind of stuff? So it's kind of ridiculous, and I think they struggle with that. Yeah.
I think one thing this movie struggled with was tying it up at the end. I think that it felt like it was, we're getting to this point, something's going to happen, oh, it's going to be a big fight, and then all of a sudden the chick disintegrates. And it happened. The end happened too quick for me. Right.
I mean, like, as soon as she put the bangles on, oh my God, I got the power, boom.
Yep.
Gone. Like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Yep, it was ridiculous.
Thank God I didn't sneeze at that point, right?
Yeah. But I guess, I think why they probably wanted us to focus more on what's next. They want us to focus more on, because it does seem like this movie is going to have a major impact on what comes next.
In a lot of ways, and I agree with you on that. They wanted to get past Dar-Benn and then focus on the future, what's going to happen with, all the Marvels and the other teams and so on and so forth. But then why make her that prominent in the movie? Right. Why make her the villain if you're just going to whack her at the end and just get rid of her?
Yep. Yeah, Marvel does that a lot, man. Like, because, in the comics, like, the villains, they don't normally die. They kind of run away, they get caught, and whatnot, and Marvel will kill them off almost too quick sometimes. Right. But let's talk about what this movie sets up, because I think that's one of probably the last up for me is what comes out of this. We talked about the Young Avengers. I think it even sets up, Captain Marvel's story and they could do a Captain Marvel sequel with the whole Kree Skrull stuff that's still kind of going on. She's trying to kind of, make amends for what she did in the past, right? So we've seen that. Ms. Marvel could have a movie of her own. She could have another season. I think they should do another season.
What do you mean? They didn't plan on doing another season?
I don't think it's been confirmed yet. I don't think so.
Dude, I've been hotly anticipating. I mean, you turned me on to that show, and I'm like, I was surprised. Yeah. How good it was and how culturally rich it was. I mean, and of course they could be, butchering the cultural stuff, but to me, being on the outside, it looked, authentic. It hit all the family things. Yep. So to me, it was cool. And I was surprised by the show overall about, it was entertaining, things like that. So I'm very much looking forward to another season of that.
Yeah, I'm even checking now. It has not been confirmed yet. No, wow. It has not been confirmed.
That actually would be a disappointment.
Yeah, I'd be down for seeing another season of that. Now, Marvel, they did say that they are getting away from the one-off shows and doing more. Because Loki, surprisingly, is the first show that had a second season. So they said they're getting away from that. They want to do more series based, which they should.
So as Loki and Hiddleston, the actor, becomes more prominent, because he was just like a B-level type character or even a C-level type character in the comics, right? So what happens if he gets into some legal trouble on the outside? And they're gonna reroute the whole MCU around that because his show is popular now.
Absolutely.
No, but I think they should like the Forges, all the hidden gems. Yep. If they did like not even a season, it's just like a short. Because if you look at like Netflix, some of the streaming platforms, they have their own movies and stuff, right?
Right.
And they make them shorts. They're not seasons.
Right.
They're just shorts. Make 10, 12, 15 episodes of something, more than 30 minutes long each. Make shorts about all these, like even just our hidden gems.
Right.
I think that would just set the stage for just so much stuff. And they can tie into all these other different things later on if they become because when they did Loki, I don't think they planned on a season 2 or whatever. Yeah. Right? I don't think they thought that it was going to be as popular as it was. But so if they do these hidden gems and then let the audience decide who should come out, I think they'll be pleasantly surprised.
Right.
And they'll have so much more stuff to put on the scene other than the multiverse version of Batman every 30 seconds.
Yep. Or they could just continue to watch our show and just steal from us. Like cool. At some point we'll want some royalties, but we're not going on strike right now. We'll keep working. But I think the big setup, we had the universes where there was an incursion pretty much. It's kind of what we've heard about in some of these other multiverse movies. Yep. I also like the way they handled the multiverse. It wasn't the theme of the entire movie. It was part of it, right? But it was just really at the end. And then I think Monica makes a statement, there's another reality bleeding into ours, right? Yep. And Monica, basically, kind of fast forwarding a lot here is they have to close this hole, right? Darben's now disintegrated, but there's a hole in the multiverse, and there's a reality bleeding into one where they're going to kind of crash. And basically what we've learned about it would destroy both of them. Right. So these girls have now learned how to use their powers together, and they come up with the idea of basically charging Monica's power enough so that she can close the portal. Right. Funny thing, there was a little ongoing joke throughout the movie where Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel were trying to come up with code names for Monica. And now Monica's character...
Well, it was Miss Marvel trying to come up with code names for each other and the group and the team and all this other kind of stuff. Captain Marvel just was kind of on the sideline.
Yeah.
But so it was Kamala Khan that was coming up with all the names and stuff.
Now, in the comics, Monica goes by a few different names. Yep. Photon, Pulsar, Spectrum. And she's even Captain Marvel at some point, I believe, right?
That's how I won't say discovered because she already existed. Yep. Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, you're not Columbus.
That's how when I was introduced to her, I was introduced to her as Captain Marvel. Okay. So that's why this Brie Larson Captain Marvel, I was like, who is this? Yeah. So I thought they were doing like a Captain America thing from Chris Evans.
Thought they switched it.
I thought they switched. Yep. I'm like, oh, this is typical. This is typical.
Oh, so you came into it a little annoyed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But what I thought was funny was some of the names that were suggested were these names that she wasn't. So it was a little, again, the point about the humor. Now, if you've seen WandaVision, I think you'd appreciate her character much more because we got to see her receive her powers there, which I think that's cool. We don't need to see everyone's origin in a movie. Sure. You want to watch it? Kind of to your point, bookmark it, right? Go back.
Yeah, but we've already seen Monica's origin. We saw her as a little girl. Yep. I'm a little confused about the timeline because, now she's an adult at some point. Yeah. And so, Captain Marvel's obviously been gone for a while. Her mother's died, so on and so forth. So she just seems like she's obviously the brainiac of the trio, right? With all the science stuff and the multiverse and so on and so forth. But she seems a little more aged than the timeline allows. So I was a little confused about that.
Yeah. Well, so current Marvel, I think they're a few years ahead of us because of the whole blip and stuff. In the past, it would be like whenever the movie released, that was when it took place. But I think they're like 5 years ahead of us or something like that, a few years. But if you remember, Captain Marvel took place in like the mid-90s. So she was a little girl there, probably 10 years old, maybe. Okay. So we're talking, 25 years later? She's probably in her 30s.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
But it's because Captain Marvel's, probably 400 years old and still looks the same. Right. Good old comic movies. But But yeah, I thought she was a great character, standout, and then we're talking about wrapping this film up. They supercharge her with their powers. She now goes to the other side because you have to close the hole from the other side. Right? It's just one of those plot point things.
You got to put. You got to pull the hole closed. You can't push the hole closed.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So she's on the other side and basically sacrificed herself.
Right.
Which kind of, it makes sense for this character.
Sure.
She lost pretty much everything she had. She had, Auntie Carol for a long time, and she deserted her for 20 years.
Right.
Her mom dies when she was blipped, which was traumatic. She came back to the hospital looking for her mom. Mom's been dead for 5 years.
Right.
Right. And now she's just trying to fit in with this. She wanted to be a pilot, right? Then she wanted to go to space and then all this other stuff. And then she's just trying to fit in with this, new version of shield, which is what, not sword. It's, what the hell they call it? Saber.
Yeah.
Right. So she's kind of like, doesn't really fit in, but she's just kind of going through the motions. So this was her big sacrifice. It's kind of like, who cares, man? Let me just go do this, sacrifice myself. And then from there, we see Captain Marvel, basically what she agreed to do, she goes and does it. She agreed. She's like, I made a promise to these people. She goes and saves the planet by recharging their sun, using all her powers, which you feel she wasn't binary. MCU says they're calling that binary, so it's their neutered version, I guess. Right. It was cool visual,
sure.
I think, to the point of the CGI. Even that, the whole universe is colliding looked freaking phenomenal. But I think the big piece that everyone's talking about, what we've been talking about for weeks, remember the rumor, we discussed it here on Only Comics, by the way, about there being a cameo of a character who was perfectly casted but was in a shitty movie.
Right.
We now know that person was Kelsey Grammer's Beast.
Okay, yep.
Now, it was a CGI version of him, which I thought looked fine.
Yeah, I thought it did too.
Like, I think it looks good.
Yeah, and it actually looks like Beast from the comics.
Yes.
It's not exactly, but it's a better portrayal of the Beast from the comics than the other guy.
Yeah. I mean, Kelsey Grammer, I thought the makeup, the hair, I thought it was phenomenal.
Yep.
But, I mean, how old is my man Kelsey Grammer?
Yeah, but the thing about it is that I hope we don't see him in the future. I mean, he's good now as, slow-moving beast, like the zombies. He's, he's a slow-moving beast. He's got the glasses. He's a professor.
Right.
He's the mind of Beast and not going out, in attack mode with the X-Men. So I'm cool with him, this Crypt Keeper playing that role. Because, like I said, I mean, be a mentor.
Yes. Not
an action figure.
But I'm cool with it because my man is 68 years old.
Oh, that's not bad.
So, yeah. And he's
how's I mean, he looks older.
Yeah, he does.
He aged badly. But, I mean, how's Keaton? Like 80?
72, I think.
80.
But here's the thing. They're doing this in CGI. No different than Mark Ruffalo playing Hulk. He can be Hulk for the next 50 years because it's just his facial.
His likeness.
His likeness.
His likeness, which they own.
Right.
Now.
And, yeah, absolutely. But Kelsey Grammer, I'm okay with this with the CGI version.
Sure. Again, as long as he's not doing, jumping out of, Mach 2 jets, flipping in the air.
But, and the whole Beast thing, so Monica wakes up in a hospital room, pretty much, looks like, and she looks over, sees her mom.
Was she powerless? It looks like she tried to conjure up something with her hands, and she couldn't.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Huh. Maybe. But she's sitting there, and she sees her mom, which is not her mom, because she realizes really quickly that she's in a different universe.
Right.
And this is it kind of ties in a little bit with Doctor Strange. Now, we know that the characters in Doctor Strange were killed, but we saw Professor X there. We saw a Maria Rambeau version of Captain Marvel there. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. And they actually called her binary, by the way.
Right.
So in this universe, this lady's not her mom.
Right.
She's an X-Men pretty much. And Monica wakes up in the X-Mansion, and Beast makes a comment about, hey, Charles would like to see you. So this, for me, is how they're going to bring X-Men into the MCU. I'm assuming that Monica's going to want to come back to her own reality at some point for some reason.
But she'll probably be Captain Marvel in that universe.
Right. Absolutely. But I think the X-Men are going to figure out a way to bring her back. And that's the other thing that could happen is that could happen along the same time as the multiversal war. And maybe they need to get back to the main timeline or whatnot. But either way, this is the start of X-Men in the MCU, I think.
With the Monica character in that universe, it kind of reminds me of Supergirl.
Yeah.
If you know her backstory, she was actually sent probably the same time as Kal-El from Krypton, right? But she got detoured for a few decades. So she came in, a little older, but not much older than she was when she left Krypton.
Yeah.
But Kal-El was an adult now.
Okay.
So she felt out of place because when she shows up on Earth, humans were like Neanderthals to her, because Krypton was so far ahead. Kal-El, he didn't grow up, already knowing the Krypton technology and how advanced they were. She did.
Right.
So she always felt out of place. She didn't feel that humans were her people. So when she had an opportunity to go into the future, right, she stayed because, first of all, boys involved. Brainiac at that time was not the evil Brainiac, but a far descendant of Brainiac.
Yeah.
So she decided to stay in the future, in the 31st century, I think it was, because the technology, and they were more up to date. So she stayed with them. So I'm kind of thinking that depending on what happens in that universe, that multiverse, that universe that Monica ended up in, she may or may not come back to 616.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Either way.
That was a long roundabout way of saying what I was saying. But anyway.
I got you. Either way, it's going to lead to something.
Right.
Either way, there's a lot more set up with this movie. How funny is this? I mean, Black Panther 2, for example, was the end, I think, of Phase 4. And there were all these rumors. Dr. Doom's going to show up, all this good stuff. The movie led to nothing so far.
Nothing.
The Marvels, who, again, me, you, your grandson, my daughter, and the 6 other people, I think we're the only ones that saw the movie this past weekend. That's why I did $40 million, because the popcorn was expensive, too. So,
the movie theater got 38 of that 40.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. But it's funny that the Marvels of all the movies, it was the first to actually start planting these seeds and leading to something else. I do think I don't think this will be throwaway. I think we'll see more from that Kate Bishop scene, and I think we're going to see a lot more from this X-Men scene down the road.
And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. There's enough again. And it's like, we're beating a dead horse here, but there's so much content out there. So this thing can go anywhere, and I'm cool with it. Another bad costume choice with Binary in the multiverse. His Monica's mom, standing there. I'm like, I didn't even know what I'm looking at.
Right.
It doesn't look binary to me at all.
Nope.
It just looks like an over padded space outfit.
Yeah. Should have just called her Captain
In other
Marvel.
words, another thing is, why was she there in the first place? Why was she sleeping next to this chick that they just found, I'm assuming, floating in space somewhere?
I think she found her. I think they said that she found her floating around space. But to your point, why would she be sleeping there?
Yeah.
For her to come check in.
Looking like her mom, waiting for her to wake up to mistake her for her mom, and then she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Right. Yeah. No, that
was kind of weird, but
that was
whatever.
odd. I said 5.8 originally. Adrian, you talked me up a little bit.
Okay.
Not up to, you said 7.5.
7.5.
Yep. Now but you did say it's not better than Black Adam though.
So here's my thing. I came into this thing with such low expectations that I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't bored.
Right.
I wasn't watching my watch to find out when this thing was going to end.
True.
I didn't even fall asleep. Besides the kid, somebody was in the front of the movie. I don't know why I always end up in the movie theater. There was somebody in the front of the movie theater. There was like 8 of us in the theater to begin with.
Yeah.
So when I booked the tickets, I expected like all the seats to be full and stuff like that. Nope, there was like 2 seats that were taken. Everything else was available. But I go in there, and there's always somebody in there. It's like they try to identify with the movie with their own version of superpowers.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I'm sitting there with my grandson, and somebody lights off. It sounded like, and I don't know why cow animals is the superpower to have. I go to this football game, and some kid walking around he'll walk up behind somebody and sounds like a cow, scares the shit out of people, right? So there was somebody in the front of the movie theater sounding like a chicken, a rooster. I'm like, why do you, first of all, why do you practice to do something like that? What's the point of that? So that was annoying. Dude. But luckily the person didn't do it during the play of the movie.
Okay.
It was at the beginning.
It was just like a
So
trailer.
it was just kind of odd. But so I was impressed by the fact that it didn't put me to sleep. I wasn't watching my watch. I wasn't it wasn't too funny. Yep. It was funny enough. I didn't see a lot of Brie Larson, so that was cool. So I give it a 7.5 because it didn't have all those negative things that I thought I was going to experience when I went in there. It was entertaining. Yeah, it was a good movie. I mean, if I was sitting around on a Saturday morning and I didn't have a million other movies I could have watched, I'm like, I could watch this again. Yeah. So that's why the 7.5.
Okay. I said 5.8. I'm going to move mine to a 6.2.
Okay.
6.2.
All right.
Which is not bad. It's 6 point. I mean, we're talking out of 10.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to go 6.2. It was good. It was okay. It wasn't offensive. Right. It was enjoyable. But I think all in all, it was fun. I think that's kind of the best. Yeah. It was fun. It was mid, but fun. Yeah. Better than The Flash. It was definitely better than Blue Beetle.
The Eternals.
Way better than The Eternals.
Again, I gave it the score that I gave it, not because the movie was that good, but because it wasn't that bad.
Gotcha. All right. Last segment today, we are going to talk about why I have the new name of He Who Is Right. Adrian, last week, I said I was going to make a prediction.
Yes.
And I did. My prediction was next episode, Loki's going to end. Loki, iconic suit, green, gold, big horns, sitting on the throne in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
How did the episode end, Adrian?
It was actually a cool scene.
It was.
First of all, he just like walked out without the suit because up to this point, everybody that goes out, they're in this clunky suit with the big a sewage drain pipe attached to their back, and they have to walk down this 3 football field long gangplank to get to this thing, and Loki just opens the door and just macks that whole thing.
Yes.
And as he's walking through, is ripping off his clothes, and he's magically, turning into his suit and stuff. So that was a cool scene. Yeah. And as soon as you made the prediction, I was like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I could see that. And that's exactly what happened. Yep. I thought, however, he was going to do something and assume the role of he who remains. Okay. But he actually suffered through something. Right. And it was almost like he pulled everything together. I think that what actually happened was better than him just, okay, I did some cool shit, and so make me the king. I think the way they portrayed it was excellent, and it was good. It was definitely spot on with the prediction too.
Yep. So we ranked all these episodes. Don't ask me what we did at the time. Score. You can go back and watch the past shows and figure it out. But I said every week that every episode's getting better and better and better. Right. I would give this episode. I give it a 9, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I think this was an amazing episode.
I can go with that. Yeah. I can roll with that. 9. Works.
I would definitely. I mean, I don't even know what I would say for downs, and for sake of time, we'll just kind of run right through it. But I like the you talk about this a lot. The power, they neuter characters on screen. Right. And we're dealing with literal gods, right? Right. And sometimes they're not even as powerful as the average human being. Loki gained some new powers in this show, which makes sense. He's a god. He's been around for thousands of years, right? It makes sense that he's going to learn new things as he goes. He gains the ability to time slip. He learns how to master that. He learns how to control time, right? All these things. And I like that. I like that we got to see that with Loki. I like that he actually is as powerful as a god should be now, right? Right. I like a lot of the time back and forth stuff, like him going to learn all these. Like he asked Obi, how long would it take to learn something? Right. It was like thousand or decade or whatever centuries.
Right.
He's like, okay.
Right.
And he like traveled because he can now control the flow of time.
Right. That was cool.
That was really cool. And it's funny I like and this is where this is a big deal. What's about to happen? I mean, the sacred timeline could be destroyed.
Right.
And they added some humor with Loki coming back and trying to go through it quicker. And then it kept happening. And then finally, when he takes over the computer and everyone's like, "What the hell's going on?"
Right.
Like I thought all those scenes were cool and fun.
Right.
And the highlight, and this is why I said in our Agree to Disagree that they should continue with Kang. Now, I felt that way anyways, but seeing him play He Who Remains in this episode, like, dude, him just sitting in the chair going back and forth with Loki, regardless how you feel about the character, his dialogue, scenes, and his wit and his he's had some great dialogue with tons of characters along the years.
Right.
So to see him go toe-to-toe with Loki, I mean, that was a phenomenal scene.
Yeah.
When he's like, how many times we've had this conversation? Like, Jonathan Majors just plays that He Who Remains, like, perfectly.
Right. It's almost like He Who Remains has seen all of this in the future, and he's just waiting for Loki to catch up.
Right.
To realize what he already knows.
Yep.
But he portrays that, though, and that's cool. I like that. I really like that.
But then Loki, this is where he's true to Loki. He gets him, though, and then he's like, he kind of flips it on him. He goes, how many times do you think we've had this? Like, Loki has a leg up now. He kind of got one up on him.
Right.
And then I liked the whole kind of conundrum he was in with Sylvie, where he thought at first he had to kill her.
Right.
And he was torn there. That was cool.
Yep.
And even when he goes to explain it to her, she's like, I'm not going to give you my blessing. Like, I like that. But then, to get to that end scene, I thought that this end scene, I don't, outside of maybe Endgame, when do you think we've had a scene, an end of a movie or show that's been this impactful?
I can't recall.
No.
It was definitely that. And again, I like how they wrapped it up as opposed to just plop, just dropping him into a thing.
Yep.
He just kind of made that thing happen. It was a good scene. That scene was as polarizing to me as how they start doing the spaghetti killing people. So that CGI look.
Yeah.
It was a good scene.
Yeah. And we see the kind of TVA kind of put back together after that. But going back to that scene, to your point, he walks out there, no suit or anything.
Right.
And I love when he starts to transform into the suit.
Right.
Like you see the horns start growing, the other shit, the TVA outfit's kind of ripping off of him. And that was a cool suit too. We've seen Loki's had some cool costumes throughout the MCU. If you remember, I think in the first Avengers, he has the giant horns when he's over in London and he's got the whole crowd trying to kneel into him or whatnot. So we've seen some cool, but this one was badass.
Yeah.
And I love too when he gets to the end and then he starts walking and the stairs start appearing, like the translucent stairs. He destroys the temporal loom because we learned that the temporal loom is just a failsafe,
right?
Where it's designed to just delete the alternate timelines. I thought it was funny too when He Who Remains was mimicking Victor Timely. Like, do you Timely? Like,
right?
Oh, you met him, like,
right.
But
again, it's like he knew something that Loki didn't. He was just waiting for him to catch up and realize that I already know this stuff.
Absolutely. And that's why I say he should remain. He remains. He should remain.
Exactly.
As Kang. I mean, all this bullshit. Like, dude, listen. If Ezra Miller can fucking attack people and kidnap people in their houses, and still be Flash, let Jonathan Majors be Kang. All the variants. I'm here for. He could play 8 different variants. I'm down with it.
Yep. I agree.
But as far as an impactful scene and the visuals, we've talked a lot about Marvel CGI recently. It's been hit or miss. Dude, this show has some of the best visuals I think in the MCU period. That whole he destroys it, and now timelines are everywhere, right? And then he's just walking through, grabbing them, recharging them, the green, and I like how it basically becomes part of him.
Right. So I was going to say, instead of the loom, everything appearing to go through the loom, now everything flows through Loki.
Yes.
So he didn't just bring them together.
Right.
He became the crossroads for all the timelines, which is, I think, is also impactful.
Yeah. He sacrificed, and we're talking about in the other movie, the sacrifice that, Monica makes, he's making a sacrifice.
Right.
He's now, like, he has to stay there.
Right.
He's a god. Like, he's becoming a real god.
Right.
He's controlling the time flow. I mean, he's now, it takes the spot of he who remains. And you've said this before. You were into Norse mythology, right?
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce the damn thing, but at the end, the timelines before just went straight across, right? Mm-hmm. Horizontal. And now he took these timelines and basically turned them into this tree thing.
Right.
There's a tree in Norse mythology, starts with like a YGG something. They've talked about it before.
Right.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Yogsdale or some shit like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And this is funny because, we talk about some of these shitty movies like Thor 2, Dark World, but there's still a lot of that impacts the story.
Sure.
If you remember that movie, that was where the 9 realms, every 3,000 years or some shit, they line up.
Right.
Remember they were dropping from realm to realm?
Yep.
And they talk about this tree there. Mm-hmm. My man, the scientist, remember the scientist guy who was friends with Jane? I forget his name. The guy who was running around naked in one of the Thor movies.
Yep.
He's a funny character.
Yep.
Selvig or something like that. He's drawing it out on the chalkboard in this. Mm-hmm. So this tree has been around since, like, the concept of it. But then when Loki, I like that it's kind of a callback to that. Because sometimes you almost forget, like, especially in this show, that Loki's from Asgard, the whole deal. Mm-hmm. And he ties this thing back into that tree-looking thing, which is from the Norse mythology. But I just thought, visual-wise, I mean, the timelines being part of his cape and whatnot, everything turning green now.
Right.
Funny thing is, I don't know if there's any correlation, but remember the stones, right? What color is the time stone? It's green. Now, Loki's controlling time and everything's green. I don't know if that's just coincidental. I mean, no, Loki's color is always green.
Right.
But I thought that was cool, too.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how, because like you said, the timelines, they kind of flowed next to each other, but now they all intersect through Loki. Mm-hmm. Like you said, which means that he pretty much can't leave.
Right.
So that's his sacrifice. So he becomes the core of the tree.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. He's right in the center of it.
So that'll be interesting for, for the movies, for the conversation, but also, this actor, are they kind of retiring him?
I kind of get that vibe. I didn't at first watching it, but thinking about it over the weekend, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon.
Right.
Now, the other thing is, how does this multiversal war start now? Because if you remember at the end, they mentioned that they're watching the Kang variants, and none of them know about the TVA yet. Right. I'm assuming eventually they're going to find out. Right. Sure. Now, I could see Kang, He Who Remains, one of these variants, attacking the end of time, attacking Loki to maybe start this. There's one way. But if that's assuming they're going to want, this character to continue. If they retired him, then maybe he's just out of sight, out of mind, and the timeline's fixed, and the multiversal war starts another way.
Right.
Who knows? But if it is a send off, I think it's a great one.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if they did make another Loki season because this did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
He's not a Batman where he's going to have all these adventures and as far as, the audience is concerned.
Right.
But they did what they needed to do with him. And as a God kind of character, he doesn't need to be a Batman.
No.
He shouldn't be everywhere. Right. He shouldn't have multiple versions of him, all these different movies and stuff. Mm-hmm. He did what he needed to do. They ended it well.
Yep. Now, as far as a character arc, I was thinking about this. Who can you say in the MCU has had a better arc than Loki now?
Nobody, really.
Would you say Iron Man?
Iron Man. I mean, that's a good development story.
Yeah.
I think it ended decent. But this was different.
Yeah.
It was a different because you're also dealing with more complex stuff than the Anthony Stark storyline.
And it was more of a transition. Like, Tony was always somewhat of a good guy, right? Maybe he walked the line a little bit in the beginning, but it wasn't pure villain turning into savior of humanity.
Right.
It was selfish rich guy turns into low-level hero, then saves humanity.
Right.
This was, so I know it was hard. I couldn't think of anyone. I mean, Captain America's always been the good guy.
Sure.
You know, he had a great story, but I wouldn't say his character changed, but not even. I would put Iron Man's above Cap's.
Yep.
Hulk, that's a joke.
Yep.
Hawkeye, another joke.
Yep.
Who else? I mean, there's really no one that I'd put at that level of character. Thor, hell no.
Strange?
Doctor Strange, I think we got to see more, but I think he's one that could.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one because he was a dick when he was a surgeon.
Yep.
And even when he was first learning the powers, he was very selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he obviously kind of turned the other side there. I could see him being the next Iron Man type of role for the Avengers, that leader.
Yeah.
So he's one that I think we'd have to see more out of him. But I can't think of anyone else, dude, that has the arc. Spider-Man's one that we'll see, how he gets there. But again, he didn't come from being a villain. This is a guy who, first Avengers, Loki's trying to destroy everyone.
Right.
And even along the way, he'd kind of flirt with being an anti-hero, then he'd go back to screwing. In Thor Ragnarok, how many times he try? They're working together the whole movie. How many times he tried to kill his brother?
Right.
That we're saying that. So you all let us know. Loki, best character arc in the entire MCU. This ain't agree to disagree, but you agree?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Do y'all agree? Probably not. See, what do y'all say? But again, I love this episode. I love this show. I said a few weeks back, WandaVision was the best show in the MCU. Mm-hmm. This now takes the title for me.
Sure. Yep.
There's no, and so this proves to me and proves to y'all that the MCU is not finished. Mm-hmm. It's not over. They can still make good content. They can still make great content. Mm-hmm. But they took their time with this. They have the right writers. And the good news is these writers and directors are going to be used for some other projects coming soon. Mm-hmm. Hey, Marvel, cheers, kudos, Kevin Feige, y'all did it again. And this was actually planned pretty well. The Marvels and the Loki season finale dropped on the same day.
Yeah.
And they both seem to be leading to a lot more. So
absolutely,
I'm here for it, man.
Yeah, me too.
The next movie is Deadpool 3, so there's a lot riding on that. The next series I think is going to lead to a lot, too, is the Echo series.
Yeah.
I think that's going to start this whole Kingpin, Daredevil, bringing them further into the MCU, which is a good thing.
I started watching that over again last night, too, Daredevil.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. The first season?
Yep.
I got to watch the others, but, I love that first season. Yeah. And from what I hear, this Echo show is going to be TV mature. Yeah. And it's going to be right in that same vein, and Daredevil also will. So I think, normally we shit on Marvel and DC here, but I'm cheer. We didn't have a Buster this, but we got cheers. We're going to give cheers. We don't have our imaginary drinks, but cheers to Marvel, Kevin Feige, the whole deal. Great week for comic book content. So I think that wraps it up, Adrian.
Yeah, works
That's it for our multiverse ride this week. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, always.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the feedback, the fun, the banter, I guess, if you will, on TikTok. YouTube, drop us a follow, drop us a subscribe, drop some comments, let us know how you feel. Do you agree? Do you don't? But you know where to find us every Monday, 5:30 Eastern, right here on Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian. We'll see you next week.